receive you, Lord. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. At that time, Jesus said to his disciples, "There will be signs in sun and moon and stars, and on the earth distress of nations in perplexity, because of the roaring of the sea and the waves, people fainting with fear and with foreboding, for what is coming on the world. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Now, when these things begin to take place, straighten up, raise up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. But watch yourself, lest your hearts be weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and cares of this life, and that day to come upon you suddenly like a trap. For it will come upon all who dwell on the face of the whole earth. But stay awake at all times, praying that you may have strength to escape all these things that are going to take place, and to stand before the Son of Man." The Gospel of the Lord. A wee experiment. Hands up all those of you who have watched a Christmas movie on TV. Come on, higher. We want to name and shame you. Okay? Hands up anyone who's watched a Christmas movie on TV in October. Hands up if it was earlier than October. Christmas hasn't even started yet, people. But it's part of our culture. The world, our society, doesn't have Advent. It doesn't long for, it doesn't wait for. It wants it, and it wants it now. And so look all around you. The decorations are up, the lights are on, and it kind of amazes me now. There's a practice that you see, particularly with people who decorate the outside of their houses, that they're decorated now, and like 2 days after Christmas, they go down, even though there's still nearly another 2 weeks of Christmas to go. Advent is really misunderstood, and I think even among us in the church, we kind of don't get it. We see Advent as a time of preparation for Christmas, and it's not. It's much more than that. In Advent, there are 3 particular aspects that we're focusing on. There's the past, there's the present, and the future. And in those aspects, we're reflecting on God with us, Emmanuel, and how God is with us. But for the next 16 days, our focus is not on Christmas, but on the second coming. Because we are a people awaiting the coming of the Lord, as St. Luke tells us in the Gospel today, in all his glory and majesty, where he comes to finally claim us for his kingdom, where he brings judgment on a broken world. And I think we forget that. We live our lives as though it's a bit of a blank check. We just trundle from day to day. And we haven't orientated our lives for that second coming. Whereas that second coming might come at the end of time or come at the end of our lives. Luke tells us very clearly, everyone on the face of the earth will experience this. But I wonder, do we really believe that ought to be the business of every day to prepare for our final day? Do we really believe that? We hear in Luke's Gospel Jesus giving a description of a broken world. And to be honest with you, it's a bit scary. Stars falling down, the moon falling down, all sorts of tragedy going on. And what's not happening here is Jesus is not describing what it's going to be like. What is happening here is Jesus is acknowledging a world that is broken. And a world that will pass away. I think we can look at our world today and we can look around all the problems and we can make our own list of things that are going wrong. And we can be afraid. There's a lot of fear around at the moment. And we can be afraid because in many of those issues, we're not in control. There's not much that we can do about them. But also personally in our own lives, there might be aspects of our lives where we are afraid that things are not good for us at the moment. And perhaps we feel a bit out of control. And we don't quite know what to do. The prophet Jeremiah in our first reading was talking to a people who knew the devastation of war. They had been defeated in battle. The leaders were taken into captivity. They were left desolate with nothing. And Jeremiah paints a picture. He says, the way we are at the moment is like a forest that has been chopped down and laid bare. There's nothing growing on it anymore, just stumps of trees. That's what it feels like for that people. And that's what it kind of feels like for us when we have tragedy or devastation in our life. But Jeremiah describes these things in order to instill hope in his people. He doesn't want them to believe that God has abandoned them. He wants them rather to have faith, to trust that God is true to his word. That when God says, I will be your God and you will be my people, he means it. He doesn't abandon them because things are tough, or even when they have become unfaithful. And so Jeremiah presents this image of a shoot growing out from a destroyed log. That even in the midst of that destruction, God is going to bring about new life. The early Christians right away saw in that passage from Jeremiah a reference to Christ. That God is going to come in among us in our brokenness, in the past and in the present, to bring new life. And he's going to bring that new life in its fulfillment at the end of time. And so Jesus warns us in Luke's gospel today. He says, beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from the anxieties of daily life. All of us have anxieties in daily life. All of us have worries and fears. All of us have concerns. And it would be foolish not to acknowledge them. But what Jesus is saying to us is this: do not be overwhelmed by them. Because whatever is going on in our world, whatever is going on in your life that causes you anxiety at this time, it will pass. It will pass away. Because God is in the process of creating a new heaven and a new earth. And when he comes on Judgment Day, his judgment will be to cast out all that is broken. And that doesn't mean to say he will cast us out because we are broken. He will cast out our brokenness and make us whole again. So whatever the anxiety you have in your life, then put that before God. Put it in trust before God. And Advent invites us with that knowledge that Christ will come and make all things well. Advent now invites us to prepare for that day, so that it doesn't spring on us, that we're already working towards that kingdom of wholeness, that kingdom of justice and peace and right. Because presently, the Lord is working with us and inviting us to build up that kingdom today. He is inviting us as a people of faith to go out into a world that has no hope and be a people of hope for them. To reassure them that God has not abandoned us or left us. And St. Paul, in his letter to the Thessalonians in today's second reading, teaches us how to prepare. How is it we've to prepare for the coming of Christ, either at the end of our lives or at the end of time? Well, he says this: may the Lord make you increase and abound in love for one another and for all. That's how we prepare for the coming of Christ in his glory. By being a people committed to living the Lord's command to love God and to love other people. And that love that Jesus is talking about is not the kind of love that we have for a spouse or a loved one. That's not the kind of love that Jesus is talking about. He's not talking about loving those who will love you back, those that you like or get on with. He's not talking about that. He's talking about a love that is so deep that you will love your enemies, that you would love those people that you avoid and avoid you, that you love not expecting any gain, but only desiring what is best for the other. And in living this life of love, we are preparing ourselves for the coming of the kingdom.